Welcome to Big Talk with Dr. Linda, a podcast dedicated to helping women of color connect with their Black inner goddess. I'm your host, Dr. Linda Thompson, former university professor, a licensed nutritionist, Reiki master, certified breathologist, and lifelong spiritual seeker. In addition to helping you gain wisdom and insights on how to connect with your inner goddess, this podcast will share nutrition and health information to help you enhance the quality of your life, regardless of your age and/or health status. Please note that nothing in this podcast is intended as medical or mental health advice. The content shared is for informational and educational purposes only. I encourage you to conduct your own research on any topic presented and to consult with your physician or healthcare provider before making any changes to medical advice based on this podcast. Welcome to Big Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Linda Thompson. Today we're talking about something many of us have heard about but may not fully understand: soul ties. Have you ever found yourself thinking about someone long after the relationship ended? Have you ever known that someone was not good for you, but you still felt pulled back to them? Have you ever met someone new, but somehow found yourself comparing them to somebody from your past? Or maybe you said, I don't even want this person anymore, but why do I still feel connected to them? So today we're going to talk about that invisible connection that sometimes remains long after physical relationship is over. We can think of a soul tie as a deep connection between two people that continues to affect them emotionally, mentally, spiritually, or energetically. And I want to make something clear from the beginning. Not every soul tie is bad. Some relationships leave us connected through love, wisdom, friendship, family, connected through spiritual growth, and even just through shared experiences. But healthy connections can support our growth and leave us feeling empowered rather than drained. But there are also connections that keep us tied to pain, confusion, trauma, unhealthy patterns, or versions of ourselves that we have outgrown. They keep us from fully connecting to our divine feminine, to our inner goddess. Those are the connections we're going to explore today. Because whether you call it a soul tie, an attachment, an emotional bond, or an unfinished relationship, the real question is this connection helping me become more of who I am, helping me to love and accept myself more, or is it keeping me from moving forward? Soul ties can form in many different ways. They can develop through sexual intimacy, romantic relationships, again, as I mentioned before, family relationships, friendships, even relationships through caregiving, and relationships formed from significant experience that you had with someone. From a spiritual perspective, we can think about these relationships as creating energetic imprints. You spend time together, you shared experiences, you shared emotions, you shared dreams. You may even have shared your body, but you may have gone through trauma together. You may have raised children together. All of those experiences can create a bond that feels much deeper than just simply remembering someone. And sometimes the relationship ends, but the connection does not seem to end with it. That is where the idea of the soul tie comes in. There's a difference between a healthy and unhealthy soul tie. But before we talk about negative or unhealthy soul ties, I want to make one thing very clear. A soul tie is not automatically unhealthy just because it is strong. A healthy soul tie can exist between two people who genuinely love, respect, and support one another. Think about a lifelong friendship, a loving parent-child relationship, a healthy marriage, a trusted mentor. These relationships may create emotional and energetic connections, but they also allow room for boundaries, individuality, growth, and freedom. A healthy connection does not require you to lose yourself to keep the relationship or compromise yourself to keep the relationship. It doesn't control you. It doesn't constantly drain you. And a healthy connection doesn't make you afraid to be yourself. It actually helps you grow. The problem begins when the connection starts interfering with your peace, with your identity, with your boundaries, with your spiritual growth. And there are signs that come up that you may be in a negative soul tie. For example, you're constantly thinking about someone who is no longer in your life. You compare every new relationship to that one person. You feel emotionally drained after interacting with them, though. You continue returning to a relationship that you already know is unhealthy. You could be in a negative soul tie if you feel responsible for fixing or saving the other person. You feel emotionally connected even when there is no contact, and you feel like part of you cannot move forward without that person. However, these experiences can overlap with other psychological experiences, such as grief or unchecked emotional experiences. So the point here is not to label every difficult relationship a soul tie. The point is to become aware of what still has access to your energy, your emotions, and your peace. There's several different types of soul ties. So today I'm going to discuss four of them: sexual, romantic, traumatic based, and long-term relationship soul ties. With respect to the sexual soul tie, from a spiritual perspective, sexual intimacy is more than physical experience, as I have talked about in previous episodes. When two people become sexually intimate, there may also be emotional vulnerability, energy exchange, of course, much energy exchange, intention, attraction, memory, and attachment. All of these things can be involved. Sexual intimacy can be viewed as an experience that may leave a lasting energetic impression, an impression that may remain even after the relationship ends. You may have ended a relationship, but still dream about that person. You may not even want to be with him anymore and have moved on physically. You could even be dating someone else, but emotionally something still feels connected to that person. You may feel pulled toward contacting him, even though you know the relationship wasn't healthy. Signs of a negative sexual soul tie. You continually think about a former sexual partner, even though the relationship has ended. You repeatedly compare new partners to that person or feel emotionally pulled back toward them. The next soul tie I want to talk about is emotional or romantic soul tie. And this is a type of soul tie that may not ever involve sex. Sometimes you become deeply emotionally bonded to someone because you share the deepest part of yourself. You might have told them about your childhood, your fears, your dreams, your disappointments, your insecurities. You trusted them with parts of yourself that very few people knew or know. That kind of vulnerability can create a profound connection. Again, this can happen even when the relationship never becomes sexual. This may be the person you almost had a relationship, the person you never really dated but could never stop thinking about, the person you had an emotional connection with that felt deeper than the actual relationship. Sometimes what keeps us connected isn't the person, but the possibility. And goodness knows I've had those kinds of connections where I'm in my head, I'm connected. Well, there's a possibility, and you create all these fantasies about what would happen, but it ain't happening. Signs of a negative emotional soul tie. You remain emotionally attached to someone even though the relationship never fully developed or has clearly ended. You continue building your life around the possibility that this person may eventually come back. Another type of soul tie is trauma-based. And this one can be kind of confusing. Not every bond is created through love, of course. Some bonds are created through pain. Maybe the relationship with the person cycles between affection and rejection. One day you feel love, the next day you feel ignored. You fight, you separate, you reunite, they apologize. Things become wonderful again. And then something happens and the cycle starts all over again. From a spiritual perspective, someone may describe that as a very powerful energetic attachment. Psychologically, experiences like this may be understood through the concept of trauma bonding, where repeated cycles of pain, fear, affection, and reconciliation create a powerful attachment that can be hard to break. So, ask this question: if this person hurts me so much, why can't I leave? Because attachment doesn't always feel like love. Sometimes attachment feels like survival. Like, what would I do without this person? And yeah, signs of a negative trauma-based soul tie. You repeatedly return to a relationship even though you know it is hurting your peace. You feel energetically or emotionally dependent on someone who who repeatedly hurts, rejects, or manipulates you. And the last one is long-term relationship soul ties. And there are many other soul ties, but I couldn't go through all of them. So I picked the four that I thought would be most relevant to our subject matter. So this soul tie is created through years of shared life. Sometimes it isn't the sex, it isn't the trauma, it isn't even the love. It's simply the fact that you built a life together. Years of routines, shared homes, children, family, traditions, financial responsibilities, holidays, losses, dreams, all of that creates a deep emotional and energetic imprint. And when that relationship ends, you might find yourself grieving more than for that person. You might be grieving for an entire version of your life. That's why letting go can be so difficult. Signs of a negative long-term relationship soul tie. You feel as though your identity disappeared when the relationship ended. You continue living emotionally in the past because you can't imagine who you are without the relationship. Yeah. So, goddesses, not every connection is meant to last forever. Some people enter our lives to love us, some enter to teach us, some enter to expose wounds that we need to heal for sure, some enter to help us discover parts of ourselves, and some people enter our lives long enough for us to learn the lesson, and then we have to let them go. Releasing a soul tie does not mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending the relationship never happened. It doesn't mean that you didn't love them. It simply means that you are choosing not to remain energetically attached to what is keeping you from becoming who you are meant to be, from loving yourself, keeping you from fully connecting to your divine feminine, your inner goddess. Your energy is sacred. Your peace is sacred. Your body is sacred. Your womb space is sacred. And your spirit deserves relationships that nourish rather than drain you. So today I want you to think about one connection that may still be occupying a space in your heart, your mind, or your energy. And ask yourself, is this connection still serving the woman I am becoming? If the answer is no, it may be time to release it. The next episode of Big Talk will give exercises to help you release the various soul ties that were discussed today. This is a wrap for today's podcast. Have something to share, a question, a topic, a suggestion, drop it in the comment section or message me on Instagram, drlindabigtalk, or send an email, drlindabigtalk@gmail.com. If you found the information valuable, share it with a friend who might benefit. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave a thumbs up. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Dr. Linda, and this is Big Talk.